For this first video I am making for the game High Command, I would like to show a German invasion of Poland in the 1939 scenario using the default army. The German army in the scenario is split into the Eastern and the Western Front. The Western Front is guarding against the French and the British, which will inevitably declare war when Poland is invaded, and the Eastern Army is used to invade Poland. You can and probably should move your Air Force, your entire Air Force, to the Eastern Front, and sometimes it's helpful to move armies to the Eastern Front, but for the purposes of this video, I am leaving all the armies in their default locations and invading with what the game gives me. Now, the first thing I like to do when I'm playing a new game of this is turn on the hexes. There's a button you can click, it will toggle the hex grid, which makes it a lot easier to see what is going on. Now, let's compare the two armies that we have. You can actually toggle between military units and icon units. Military units look really nice. They look like little soldiers and little tanks. But they're almost completely worthless because you can't really tell a lot of times, or you can't tell at all, how strong a unit actually is. So I almost always keep it on the icon units. So let's take a look at Germany's army that we're starting this invasion with. The first unit we're going to look at is a German infantry unit. They're designated by the X, and they usually have a value in the scenario of 8 to start. You can see their combat strength is 8. 8 is the manpower, so to speak, of the unit. I like to think of 1.0 meaning 1 infantry division. It doesn't work historically if you try to add up armies that way, but for flavor it's not too bad. So if I see a stack of 8, I think of it as being 8 German infantry divisions. You can tell that German infantry have a ground-to-ground of 25, and they can move 4 spaces per turn. Different hex types take different movement points. Plain spaces, like these, only take 1. Forest spaces take 1.5. And mountains take 2, which is relevant. Also, anytime you cross a river that has a bank controlled by the enemy, then it costs an extra half movement point. So moving across the Vistula is going to cost me an extra half movement point. So if I'm moving from plain to forest over the Vistula, that will cost me 2 movement points. Now the second type of unit we'll look at will be the German armor. As you can tell, this one has in fact all of them have a ground-to-ground ability of 50, which is double that of infantry. In addition, any armor fighting in a plain square gets that value doubled again. So infantry pretty much stand no chance against armor when fighting on the plains or in clear sites. They need to fight in cities, in forests, or in mountains, or against armor that has low organization. So you can't see them now because they're stacked, but I have 2 stacks of units. And when I look at the details of the stacks, you can see there's more units here. The first one to look at will be the mechanized infantry. This fights exactly the same as regular infantry, except they move just as fast as armor does. Germany is the only country to start with some. They are extremely expensive. They're nice to have, but you're almost always better off buying either regular infantry or armor units. You get more bang for your buck. Now the real units that are important here are the aircraft. So if I click on this one, you can see the single line is the fighter unit. They have decent air-to-ground, really nice air-to-air, and then decent air-to-sea. So clearly these are made to control the skies. Also, they're very effective too at attacking enemy ground units, especially in a surprise attack situation. Now you can see the bomber unit, which is 2 vertical lines, is kind of the polar opposite. It has extremely high air-to-ground and air-to-sea, and only modest air-to-air. It's also a good time now to point out organization, which is right below combat strength. Organization is essentially how well a unit fights. The less organization they have, the more casualties they take in a fight. What's even more importantly is that the organization drops below a certain amount and they attempt to flee, they'll be destroyed instead. So keeping enemy organization low is the key to Blitzkrieg, because then you can destroy their units just by moving into their square, making them retreat, and they'll be destroyed. Now aircraft are not very good at all at reducing enemy strength. You can bomb an 8 strength or 8 division infantry unit all day long. You're not going to inflict very many casualties. What they are excellent at is reducing organization. They can reduce organization to almost 0, and then your infantry units or your armored units just move in and pretty much win the battle automatically. That is the essential approach we'll take when fighting Poland. So you start the game in the first phase of force allocation. Normally this is where you move units around the country, but we're just going to skip it here. We don't need it. The next phase is resource allocation, production, and diplomacy. Again, normally we would do a lot here, but I'm just going to delegate these to the computer because this is going to be a very short campaign. So, computer will make some amazingly bad decisions on how to invest your precious resources. So, going to the next phase. Now we're in the air phase, which is where you want to start this. Alright, so taking a look at the enemy that we face. Let's hide the units for a minute, which you can do with this button on the right. You can see Poland has a few mountains, a few forests, but they're extremely vulnerable. They have a lot of plain sites that the armor will just chew through, and pretty much every important city in Poland is within striking distance of German territory. You can easily capture the entire country within one turn. Now, in order to capture the country, there is no need to occupy every single Polish city. If you occupy a certain number of cities plus the capital, you'll win the war and the country will surrender. So for our purposes, we are going to try to take Danzig, which was the alleged reason for the war to begin with. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Poznan, Lodz, Warsaw, which is the capital of Poland, Krakow, and then Polish Silesia, which is a nice mineral site. Now, looking at the Polish defense, they don't really have a lot. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regular infantry units of 4 strengths each, which is only 20 points. Our base unit is 8 strength. Moreover, if you actually, well, you can't examine units you don't control, but they only have 15 attack strength for infantry versus 25 for German, and their tanks and aircraft only have 35 attack strength compared to 50. So not only do we heavily outnumber the Poles, and not only are we going to be surprise attacking, but we also have better troops than they do. So, it's always best to start wars in this game, and this is the essence of Blitzkrieg, with a surprise air attack. The air attack will destroy the enemy's organization, and then in a single turn, you'll be able to mop up completely with your ground units. So taking a look at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate Polish stacks to attack, one of which, Warsaw, has several units in it, so it will take quite a number to get it. So we'll use our bomber units to attack Warsaw. It gives you warnings that you're attacking a neutral country. That will automatically bring a declaration of war from that country, no matter which country it is. So our 2 bomber units are going to attack Warsaw. Now we're going to use our 2 fighter units, or actually our 4 fighter units, 2 each, to attack the other Polish infantry. Now I don't quite have enough fighter units to put 2 on every Polish infantry unit, so 2 of them are going to have to only have 1. This is the reason it's usually good to move your other bomber units to the Eastern Front before starting this fight, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. So whenever I plan my moves, I always like to hit the Show Plan Moves button. You can see that every Polish unit is being attacked, and now I am ready to start the war. So I'll hit the Go to the Next Turn button, and one thing you'll really like, if you're me, is they play the national anthem of the country you're attacking. Poland has an excellent national anthem. Now, you have 2 treaties involved when attacking Poland. You have the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Russia, which guarantees that Russia will not declare war on Germany if Poland is attacked before January of 1940. But Poland also has a defense treaty with Britain and France, guaranteeing that both Britain and France will declare war if you declare war on Poland, which is exactly what happens. Alright, now the war is on. So you can tell our first bomber unit is attacking Warsaw. These go one at a time. And you can see that that the enemy starts with an org of 100. And you get 2 combat turns. You can tell we did almost no damage to the units, but they lost virtually all their organization. Then you have to land it wherever you want to. Now our other bomber unit's going to attack. And you can tell the Warsaw now has 10 organization left. We also destroyed some Polish aircraft. The city will be a walkover when our infantry moves in. So now we'll repeat with the other Polish units. And all of them that have the little red square at the top of the upper right of their unit, that means their organization is nearly shot. And they really don't need to engage in land combat. So now these 2 at the bottom are less powerful, but they're still kicking a punch. You also get a nice bonus if you do a surprise attack, which is why you should always attack via surprise attack and never attack via declaration of war. So, and that's the end of the first air allocation. Now, just on the off chance this one Polish submarine tries to escape, we'll do a naval patrol, which is this little blue circle. And that's all we want to do. We don't really want to tussle with the British and French navies at the moment. Let's see. Nothing happened, so the Polish destroyer stayed in port. Alright, now it's time for the land allocation. It is 6 phases, which is, since 6 spaces is the most an armor unit can move, it means you could potentially move a unit every single phase, and everything moves at the same time. So both you and the Poles will move at the exact same time. So we're going to send our southernmost infantry unit to take Krakow and Polish Silesia. We will take these 2 infantry units and move them into Warsaw, like so. We'll take this infantry unit and end it in Danzig, and then we'll take our armor and also move it into Warsaw. So again, using the show plan moves, you can tell we're taking every single city that we intended to take. So we will continue to the next phase. And you can see we're capturing Polish cities. Now we're engaging in combat. You can tell they only have 20 organization left, and they get eliminated as they try to retreat. As you can tell, they're doing absolutely 0 damage because their organization is already so low. You can tell here we've captured Danzig, which again was a nominal reason for the war. And finally, the final battle in Warsaw. You can tell the Poles have 6 understrength divisions against 28 German divisions, and they did a total of 0.1, basically 1/10 of a division damage, and Warsaw has been captured. As indicated, capturing the Polish capital and substantial other territory caused them to capitulate, and the entire country surrenders. Now, for Poland only, there is the Ribbentrop-Molotov secret pact into effect, and it's very generous to the USSR. They get the entire eastern half of Poland, they get to occupy all 3 Baltic states, and they also get to take Bessarabia, which is in northeastern Romania. It essentially has the effect of pushing the jumping-off point for the German invasion farther east. However, there is nothing stopping Germany from turning around the very next turn and declaring war on Russia. You can declare war as soon as you want to. However, it is usually advisable to finish off the French before going for the Russians. And that is it. Poland has now been incorporated into the Reich. As you can tell, it all turns nice and evilly black, as it is now part of German territory. You now have a common border with the Soviet Union, which you did not before. So if you do want to invade the Soviet Union, attacking Poland is necessary. However, it is usually advisable to deal with the Western Allies, the French and the British, before considering taking on the Russians. One final consideration is whether or not to invoke the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The way you avoid it is just wait until after January of 1940 to declare war. Personally, I don't like that. I think it's very gamey, because if you just take Poland by itself, you end up extremely far east into Russia, and it makes it extremely trivial to actually take over the Soviet Union when you're only starting 1 or 2 turns away from Moscow. So, and plus also historically, I really don't believe the Russians would have ever let the Germans take the entirety of Poland, so I think it should be an automatic declaration of war if you try to take Poland without the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. Now, it's not like that. It's only a chance that the Russians can declare war. But, of course, if they did declare war, it probably screws up everything that you've been trying to do that entire game, so it's very gamey to me, because you probably just restart if the Russians actually did declare war. So I always try to invoke the pact, which for me means I almost always attack in December of 1939, which gives me a few months to build up, but it's the last month you can wait before you'll invoke the pact. So that's it for the invasion of Poland. The next step, logically, would be the invasion of France, which I will cover in another video.